Good morning, everyone. I'm Jacob Mullins, and in a twist of things, I'm now joined by my good friend here, Michael Sapp, who's going to be on camera talking probably more than I am, so you just have to, we'll have to get a mute button for him. Yeah. But we have the special privilege today to have District Attorney Champ Crocker on with us.
Thank you all for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. I've asked you several times, and I think the people would like to know what all district attorney entails. Now, I know that's too big. That's a very general question. So that's the main source. I want to get down into the weeds on what you do every day.
Sure.
It's a position that we all know, and you have an election every 4 years, correct?
6.
Is it 6?
Yes.
Years. Oh, good for you. 6-year term. Mm-hmm. So you took office January of 23.
That's right.
So you're in there year and a half now. Mm-hmm. First off, is it everything that you thought it would be?
That and then some. And thank you all again for having me. You know, I don't think there is any office that is more consequential to the quality of life of a community than district attorney. Look around the country. For better or worse, I think the agenda that the district attorney has is crucial to the community. As far as what we do, it is prosecuting criminal cases is our primary job, but it is by no means our only job. We handle everything from traffic tickets to Class A felonies. And one of the things that is important to me is, as the district attorney, to handle cases myself. I can't do it all by myself. I have a very good staff, highly trained prosecutors, very good and experienced staff.
So you're in there in the courtroom.
I am in the courtroom. That is important to me. I like being in the courtroom.
Is that common, Champ? For
I would say that it is becoming more common. It used to be that you didn't see elected DAs in court very much because there is a lot of administration and a lot of other things that you have to do. But the people expect to see their elected officials actually at work doing what they were elected to do. I believe the days of figurehead elected officials are over, and certainly I try to be a working DA, whether it is handling a traffic docket, trying a jury case, whatever the case may be. I myself have tried 5 murders in the last 14 months.
Wow.
And fortunately, we've gotten five murder convictions, and I can talk about those a little bit. But in addition to that, we screen warrants before cases even start. Officers make a case. They bring the warrant and the information to us. We review that to make sure that it passes legal muster. Certainly, we don't want to pursue a case if you don't have good cause and good legal grounds for doing so. I authorize autopsies. Whenever there is a death in the field, I get a call from the coroner. Sometimes, most of the time, there's not a crime involved with that, but sometimes we have to take a look and rule certain things out.
So you will authorize any autopsy that's performed on any kind of potential crime scene?
If there's an unattended death. Now, sometimes if somebody dies in the hospital, and a physician wants an autopsy, I'm not involved in that. But when someone has an unattended death, the coroner will call me, and usually I don't just order them to order them. Usually there's a law enforcement asks for it, or the coroner asks for it, or something of that nature.
When you say unattended, what is that? Is that
no witness there
outside of a clinical setting?
Okay, all right,
yeah.
So what? Now, is that, I'm probably getting too much in the weeds, but you got me curious. Is that your office, or do you personally have to approve every one of those?
Well, it is the job of the district attorney to do that by statute, and I myself take those calls.
That's an amazing burden. I mean, if you're watching a ball game and you get a phone call, you've got to determine quickly whether it's appropriate or not.
I get, I'm at ball games, been on vacation, asleep, whatever the case may be.
Is this a 24/7 job?
Oh, 100%.
I mean, so
yeah.
you're on all the time.
Yes. Yes.
Did
yes.
you? Is that part of what you expected coming in, or is any of this unexpected?
Well, it was expected. I knew that going in. You don't fully appreciate it though until you're there.
I guess you can't appreciate the volume that office gets on a daily basis, much less over a week's time period.
There is a tremendous volume of cases. We also handle certain things for our local merchants, worthless checks, things of that nature. We do child support enforcement. We have a good partnership with our local school systems where we address truancy issues and things of that nature. You know, the Alabama Mandatory Attendance Act was passed about 100 years ago. And the Mandatory Attendance Act says it requires that kids go to school and that they behave in school. And the act also says that the district attorney shall vigorously enforce this statute.
School behavior.
Now that's pretty strong words. It doesn't say that about robbery or murder or anything else, but for attending school,
I didn't know
it
that.
says the DA must vigorously enforce
I've
it.
not. Wow.
Are you? So you could potentially have to call a parent about a child issue at the school if it ever got that far.
Well, so we have it's called the Helping Families Initiative. It is a statewide program that about half of the DAs participate in. And we try to head truant situations off. Whenever a child starts getting absences, we get notification from the schools, and then we send a letter to the parents, and we say, hey, we're not trying to take you to court. We've been notified of this issue. Please contact the school counselor, school administration, get this worked out. And most of those, we never hear from them again. And I believe that education is a very good crime-fighting tool.
Yeah.
I don't believe there is any more strategic partnership that law enforcement has than with our school systems. And we've got very good staff who work on this program. We just finished up meeting with all the administrators and the superintendents of both public school systems. We also get a lot of referrals for services for mental health and other issues going on with kids in school, and we try to be as helpful as possible there.
Do the schools, is there a certain level that something reaches that they then are required to submit to your office?
Yes. When kids miss so many days, they're actually required to file a truancy petition through juvenile probation. The Helping Families Initiative tries to head that off and keep that from happening before the kids become truant, before they actually get taken to court.
Now, you said that about only half of the DA's offices in the state participate. For the other side that doesn't, why would they not?
I'm not sure, but this program has worked very well in every county where they've done it. I would hate to be the last DA in the state to adopt this program.
To me, it just seems like it's a no-brainer that that's what you would want to do. I mean, you're as long as you don't take it to excess.
Right.
I mean, if you're in there trying to be the principal of the school, that's one thing.
Right.
But I know you too well. You're not doing that. I guess that could be the reluctance of some, but on its face value, it seems like a wonderful program. It's just another step. Say, hey, get your kid in school.
Exactly, and it's a preventative measure.
Does this count for tardies too?
No.
This is just
absences.
So when I'm taking my kid to school and I'm freaking out,
Are you one of those that I'm passing about 7:58?
That's what I'm wondering.
Well, don't get a speeding ticket trying to meet the bell.
That's exactly right.
Would never break the local traffic laws.
Well,
No,
and I'll mention this. To me, it's important to be proactive. When we prosecute a case, and we prosecute a lot of cases, that is after the fact. I believe that if we can do something before the fact, we can prevent crime in the future. One of the things that we started last year was the pretrial intervention program. And there was legislation passed several years ago that allowed DAs to set up pretrial intervention programs, usually for first-time nonviolent offenders. And it had never been done in this county before, but I said, I want to do this because I think we can make a difference here. And so people who want, say somebody gets a DUI, they do something stupid at Rock the South, a relatively a minor infraction, most of them are misdemeanors, they have the option of applying for this pretrial intervention program. And it's not just me. I have established a citizens committee. I have 9 outstanding citizens from this community who help me screen these applications. The offender is invited to attend, and if they have a lawyer, their lawyer can come with them and spend 5 or 10 minutes in an interview saying why they should be in this program. And if the committee and I feel like they're appropriate, then we put them in the program. Their cases are put on hold. They go through at least 6 months of monitoring, taking alcohol and drug tests. They're required to work a job or seek employment if they're of working age. They have to do 10 hours of community service. If they need any further treatment, we can prescribe that for them. And then also, they write a letter of apology to the arresting officer or the victim, if there is a victim. And they also are required, and this is a big one, to attend a sentencing docket in circuit court where there are prisoners going to jail and bring us proof of that. Because and I've gone and sat with these participants in the program at those dockets, and they just say, "Wow, now I see where crime leads you," and it's been very successful. And it's for low risk. It's for low risk offenders. It's not for career criminals. It's not for addicts. It's for people who made a bad decision, who are otherwise capable of being good law-abiding citizens. And prosecutorial discretion is something I have to use every day. There is a difference between bad people and people who made a bad decision.
And thank you for saying that. One bad decision, based on its level of severity or not, is no reason to just destroy someone even if it's for just a small time frame. So I appreciate you giving these people a second chance. Well,
and when it comes to this job, I try to approach it with some level of humility, because even when I'm prosecuting hardened criminals, I realize that they are just probably 3 or 4 life decisions from being in my position, and likewise, I'm 3 or 4 life decisions from being in theirs.
Yeah. Now I'm a firm believer there is true evil in this world, and those need to be punished completely to the fullest extent of the law. But you said it, especially in your position, you could, in a position of power, you could get up there and then just be on top of the mountain, looking down on all the subjects. But I appreciate the fact that you've stayed humble. You see the humanity in each individual, and then you do have to use your discretion from there. But I appreciate you putting these things in place to give them a second chance, because it'd be easy to just say, hey, prosecute them, whatever to the fullest extent of the law that you can, and be done with it.
Yeah.
Which I'm assuming that's probably some people's stance, just because that would be easier.
Well, that leads me to my next point. You hear a lot of things in the media right now about Alabama's prison system, and there are all of these anecdotes about how this person is 70 years old and they're still in jail, and the system is unfair. I reject that. The overwhelming majority of people in Alabama state prisons are there for violent offenses.
I would not have thought that.
They are, and there are so many, because of diversion programs and different avenues. We have sentencing guidelines. If it gets to the point that someone is serving a long-term sentence in Alabama State Prison, it is because of either a lengthy record or they've committed a violent crime.
Now, on the flip side of that, does that mean that there's a lot of offenders that get a shorter sentence than needed because of limited space?
I would say so. There are some sentences that are not prison eligible. That there are sentencing guidelines which are presumptive. They're not mandatory, and there can be aggravating and mitigating circumstances to sentences. But by and large, the judges apply the sentencing guidelines, and there are some offenses that are not jail or prison eligible. Now, certainly, someone's record has a lot to do with that. We have formulas that we go by, and it is by no means perfect, but it is the system that we're working within.
Is it still the old 3 strikes you're out, 3 felonies, and it's automatic prison sentence, or has that gotten more lax just because of overcrowding?
So under the Habitual Offender Act, if you have prior felonies, then you can get an enhanced sentence. Now, it may depend on the degree of felony. We have Class A felonies, which are your more serious crimes, like murder and robbery and rape and things of that nature. We have Class B felonies. We have Class C felonies. And we also, in the last few years, we've gotten the Class D felony.
What would that be?
Drug possession. If you have possession of methamphetamine, for example, which is a common one, that would be a Class D felony. A Class D felony is not prison eligible unless you have a bunch of them.
Now, is it your job to figure out what class the crime fits into?
Yes. When I mentioned the warrant screening, when the officers make a case, they usually will arrest someone and then they will bring to us their packet. Now, they have already made the charging decision. Our officers, our deputies know the law. We certainly assist them and provide guidance when necessary. But yes, we and with any felony case, we ultimately take it to the grand jury, and the grand jury issues an indictment. There have been cases where the officers will bring us a case, a warrant will be issued, and then we take it to the grand jury, and the grand jury will vote it up, vote it down, or change the charges. They have the authority to do that, and that's one of the more interesting things about my job is dealing with the grand jury, which is all confidential. The grand jury does not meet in a public courtroom. It is secret, and that's for a good reason. And I tell the grand jury, I say, I can't prosecute anyone for a felony in this county unless y'all give me permission to do so.
Really?
Yeah, that's right. And that's
so it's checks and balances.
It's checks and balances, and it all comes from, you've heard of the Magna Carta.
Yeah.
Well, so King John was king of England hundreds of years ago, and he was in charge of everything. The king ruled, and if the king didn't like you or didn't like your politics or you crossed the king, he could throw you in jail for an indeterminate amount of time, and you just got to sit there.
Almost made a joke about today's landscape, but I'll move on.
Well, and so what happened was the people started protesting, as people do when they're oppressed, and some of the nobles went to the king and said, "Look, buddy, you got a problem. The pitchforks are out there, and they don't like this." And so there was a concession made at Runnymede where he signed the Magna Carta, and part of one of the concessions he made was to establish the grand jury, which said that the people decide who has to go to court. And that is still, that's what we do to this day. Now, not every state does the grand jury. Only about half of the states still use the grand juries. It is checks and balances. It ought to be up to 18 people, not one, as far as who has to go to court. And another thing the grand jury does is every grand jury goes and inspects the jails to make sure that the jails are in livable proper conditions, and they make a report to the court based on their inspection of the jail. And that was also one of the concessions made in the Magna Carta.
All right, I don't want to spend too much. Now you got me curious. How are you chosen for the grand jury, and how long do you serve on it?
So grand jurors are summoned, and then they are impaneled, and normally it is for a 6-month period, and the grand jury meets at certain appointed times, but there is always a grand jury in session, and the grand jury can be convened and gathered and brought to hear cases at any time.
So when I get my little card in the mail that says you've been summoned for jury duty, it has the potential for the grand jury at that time, or is it a separate summons?
You will get a summons for jury duty, and that could be a regular jury for a civil or criminal case. It could turn into grand jury service. And I'm glad you mentioned that card in the mail. I talk to people all the time who say, "Hey, I got jury duty. I don't want to go. Can I get out of it?" And I tell them, look, we need good jurors. If you get that card in the mail, go, show up. I've done it. I served on a criminal jury 5 years ago, and I was a lawyer in private practice and served, and it was an amazing, rewarding experience.
Is it different from that side?
It is. It was very educational. It was intense. It was pressure. And I tell juries now, hey, I know what it's like. I have sat in your chair before and had to decide a case. Sometimes people complain about, the legal system, the legal system's broken, all that. You are the legal system. Jurors decide cases. Grand jurors decide who has to go to court. The people are the legal system, which is why I firmly believe in our legal system. Does it get everything right? No. Is it perfect? No. But it works.
I agree. I could sit there and just start complaining about anything and everything, but for the majority of the times, it does work. Mm-hmm. And you hear about these horror cases of people being wrongly imprisoned, but those are the exception rather than the rule. And I'd say 99% of the time it gets it right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that where I get all of my legal expertise from. One of my favorite shows is Suits. Used to be on USA, is on Netflix. Is that not all the drama, not all the garbage back and forth, but just the procedure? You ever watch that show?
I have watched it, yeah.
Is there any bit of realism to it, or is it just all over-exaggerated? Just we talked about subpoenas.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night, they talk about going to get these subpoenas and having to go. See, I always heard it was from the judge to get the subpoena. So you also can issue those subpoenas the warrants to go to either collect information on a individual, business, whatever it may be. What differentiates between what a judge orders and what you order?
So a search warrant has to be signed by a judge. Okay. Now, I can do an application and ask for a search warrant. A police officer can ask for a search warrant. But a search warrant to go in and collect evidence and things of that nature must be signed by a judge. A subpoena is usually to appear in court, to produce something, to bring something to court. That is a court order, but that normally comes from the clerk, where a party will say, "Hey, I need trial subpoenas for next week." Okay, here's your subpoena. Go out and serve them. Sometimes service of legal papers can be difficult, yeah. And when you hear about things being served in the middle of the night, that does happen. Sometimes because people are hard to find. Some people don't want to be found.
Yeah, yeah. From working at the bank, unfortunately, that's part of what we have to do. And you sometimes have trouble finding individuals.
Yes.
So to be honest with you, I did not realize how encompassing your position was. I mean, Can you imagine doing what he does?
Champ, in saying that, I got a question on that. After you got
We don't have
elected,
time for you right now. I'm
like
sorry.
I'm gonna have to bump in here for a second. This is what's killing me. Champ, is there anything that's changed since you've been elected? Like now that you're DA, when somebody cuts you off, do you just have to like smile and say, well,
cut you
there's
off?
What? In traffic, you
specify.
Drive.
You talking about cutting off you've cut him off today on a few questions?
That's right. What? You got to jump in there. We got to keep the conversation going a little bit.
Well, I would say that it's given me an appreciation for the dangers in society.
Yeah.
When you see crimes, when you've been on crime scenes, when you deal with these cases, it gives you just a sense of how dangerous the world is. And no, I won't even blow my horn anymore because
That's what I was wondering.
There's a lot of people on edge, and with most crimes, even violent crimes that I see, in most cases, that offender did not wake up that morning planning to do whatever they did. But intent can be formed in an instant, and that's what the law requires. And so, I would say if somebody cuts you off in traffic, just go on. You don't want to end up in a more serious situation.
Jacob, are you an aggressive driver?
Is that no? I told you. I mean,
you're taking it easy.
I go 5 miles an hour under the speed limit, obey all posted road signs. I'm not like you out there breaking the law every time that I turn the key to my car. So how dare you ask me that? You said that about intent. Mm-hmm. You see on a lot of these shows, crimes of passion versus intent. Mm-hmm. Is that a real thing?
It is. It is. When you talk about crimes of passion, the most typical crime of passion is manslaughter. Manslaughter can be one form of manslaughter is a crime of passion where somebody just snaps and does something. Yes, that happens, but like I said, intent can be formed instantly, and sometimes we have cases that turn on which one is it. Was this intentional, or was this just a sudden snapping?
Oh, so I mean that's something that's at your discretion, I presume.
Well, it would be our discretion on how to charge it, but ultimately it would be up to a jury to decide what it is.
So where does the judge fall in this whole process? All right, I honk my horn. We get out of the car, have a confrontation. We get into a fight. I get arrested. Mm-hmm. All right. The law enforcement officer arrests me at that time. From the time that I'm in the patrol car till I get to the jail, when he books me in that jail, what is he booking me for?
So, in that situation, you get in a fight on the side of the road, you're probably going to be booked for some kind of assault or harassment or something like that. And then you're given a court date where you have to show up in court and answer to the charges. If it's a misdemeanor cases are tried and decided by a judge. You don't have a jury in misdemeanor cases.
When is that determined?
Well, it's based on what the charge is.
All right, I put you on the spot. I'm not trying to I'm not giving you enough details for that, but who decides whatever it is when I'm arrested?
Usually the officer.
Okay, so that's just the predetermined. It may or may not stay whatever you're charged for.
That's right.
Okay, all right. That's what I couldn't figure out is there was something I was missing. Yeah. And I'm putting you on the spot, and I'm going to be as general, so I'm not expecting you to be specific, but this is luckily I've never had to be in that position. Hope I never have to, but just if something unforeseen happens, I want to know what I need to do. So
sure.
All right, taking that instance, got into a fight, went to jail. I've been charged with, I don't know,
Third degree assault.
All right, that does bring up something. As soon as if I'm brought to the jail, is it determined then whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony?
Normally, because that's what's called a probable cause arrest, where the officer will take someone in, say, this is what I'm charging you with, and then you're booked and processed.
Okay. But it's not until you get your appearance in court, nothing is official at that time.
Well, the fact that I guess the fact that you were charged is official, but you're always innocent until proven guilty, and that's the way it should be.
All right. So if it's let's say I got booked with a misdemeanor, whatever that misdemeanor assault. I'm just throwing out stuff, so excuse me. Yeah. You spend a predetermined amount of time in jail, I guess. Now, help me if I say something wrong.
Well, so for most misdemeanors, there's a bond schedule, and the offender is able to sign their own bond or get a bondsman. They're not in jail that long, although an officer can do what's called a bail request. And they can do a bail request even on a misdemeanor. And a bail request requires you to sit in jail until you see a judge in a day or two. Normally that happens if someone officer thinks this person's a flight risk, this person could hurt somebody else, witnesses could be in danger, things of that nature. Or this person just needs to cool off. They would file a bail request to make them sit. Also, for DUI cases, generally speaking, there's a 24-hour rule that you have to sit for up to 24 hours, or at least until you blow 0.0 on. And
that's just to make sure you're sober when you're released.
Yes,
I guess, and I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot in any of this, but it's interesting to me. And if I used a case that's hard, it's completely my fault because luckily I just don't know what I'm talking about. It goes through that whole process. You get your bond. I guess you have to own property to be able to sign your own bond. Is that
some minor offenses you can be released on your own recognizance? Usually, the more serious it is, the higher the bond will be.
And as long as you show back up for court, you're not liable for whatever that bond amount is?
That's correct.
Okay. At that time, once you go out on bond, then you go through the legal process to where it would go to your office.
Yes.
First, as soon as that, after they're booked in the jail, it goes to your office, and then that's where your determination comes in.
So we screen felony warrants. The DA's office does not screen misdemeanor warrants. A magistrate in the courthouse screens those. But yes, it comes to us to prosecute. We prosecute misdemeanors and felonies. We screen felonies. The magistrate screens misdemeanors.
What is the magistrate?
The magistrate is in the clerk's office, in the circuit clerk's office on third floor. Everyone is entitled to have the law says a neutral and detached magistrate to decide whether or not there is cause for this person to be charged.
Is that a singular person, or is that a collection of individuals within the clerk's office?
There are a couple magistrates.
Okay. All right, that's what I couldn't figure out if that was an actual position or if it was just a collection. So,
yeah.
So you need to be writing all this down, Michael.
I got it down. I'm ready.
I mean,
hey,
I'm asking this
I'm
for
prepared.
You.
Listen, I've been taking notes. Mm-hmm. Champ, you're a runner.
Yep.
What do you think about when you're running?
Running is to me, it's kind of a form of meditation, because you get out, you're running, you get in the groove, and it's really a way to decompress and not think a little bit, if that makes sense. And so I don't think about too much when I'm running, except
you're in the zone,
avoiding cars and dogs.
Yeah.
I got chased by a Rottweiler
recently.
Here a while back, I was over by the Cullman Times, and this big dog got after me and chased me It chased me into the parking lot of the Methodist church, but
that's a sign to quit running.
yeah, I didn't know I was that fast, but I think I broke a speed record. Yeah, it picked up. I had some adrenaline going.
You work out a lot. I can tell.
I used to.
What do you think about when you're working out? Do you do the same thing? You kind of zoned out, or are you?
No, I've got my headphones on, listening to.
You're listening to music,
heavy metal, just in there screaming, throwing stuff around. I couldn't tell you. It's one of those that you just kind of do what you do, and
so kind of the same thing. You're in your zone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is it? All right, I got to ask you about this running thing. It fascinates me, people that like to run, because I can't. I mean, if I run from here to the truck, I'm going to be out of breath. Do you really? Is the runner's high a true thing?
It is.
Once you push past a certain point, you can just keep going.
Yeah, I've done 8 half marathons, and I'm looking to do another one. And yeah, there is a point where you hit that level.
What, do you know where that's at for you? Do you know like generally, like, okay, after 6 miles or
about 6 or 7.
6 or 7?
That's not that. Do you run?
No.
There's nothing about that. That's 6 or 7 miles. What kind of pace you doing on those 6 or 7?
About 8 minutes.
I couldn't run 1 mile in 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So you're competitive.
Well, I don't know about competitive. I'm not competitive with my oldest son is a rising sophomore. He's on the track and cross country team at Cullman High School, and he runs like 5-minute mile.
I see,
without breaking a sweat. And so he used to run with me, and we would start out running, and of course I was faster than him a few years ago, even though I don't consider myself fast. And I would say, okay, just run your race. Don't try to keep up with me and so forth. And now it's just the opposite. I'm way back behind him. He and I were running in a race together during the summer, and I saw him at the start line, and then he was gone.
That's just
yeah.
So
I'm
like
jealous.
these 5Ks, you can run one of those, and it doesn't affect you at all.
No, it's 3 miles. It's not bad.
That's the way that casually is.
I
3
know.
miles.
I know. 3 blocks, and
When I was in high school in somewhat decent shape, didn't weigh much at all, I still never could run. That's just one of those things I've never been able to do. So it fascinates me that you can run.
Well,
miles.
I started running late in life, I guess. I started when I was 39, 9 years ago.
Not bad. Okay.
Yeah, I had gotten to the point where I didn't feel good. I was out of shape. My youngest child was on the way, and I just said, I'm about to be 40 years old. I got to do something. I did not plan on becoming a runner, but that was, and that's something that I've tried to focus on is attorney wellness, and I've spoken at several legal seminars about this. I think there's a duty of attorney wellness. I actually wrote a paper that was published called The Duty of Attorney Wellness. And I think there's a duty of prosecutor wellness as well, because if you're an attorney, whether you're a DA, defense attorney, a state attorney, divorce lawyer, whatever, you have a duty to protect someone else's interest. And if you are not well yourself, how are you going to do that? And so, and there was a study done several years ago by the American Bar Association that said the legal profession is not well. That the legal profession
is this mental health or physical, all of it.
All of it. That the legal profession has a higher degree of substance abuse and mental illness than the general public does. And
sounds like a bad combination.
Well,
it
is.
makes sense,
and there are, I call, occupational hazards of practicing law. There are a lot of pressure. There's a lot of deadlines. There's a lot of sleep deprivation. There is technology addiction. And it is a lot of pressure practicing law. And a lot of lawyers, unfortunately, fall into this trap of helping other people and neglecting to be well themselves, and it's a real problem.
That especially on the private side, you can pick and choose your hours. Now that depends on how successful you want to be, determines those hours. But on your side, you don't get to pick and choose your hours. You get what comes into you, and it's a never stop flow. How do you take time away?
You have to make time, and sometimes it's at night, sometimes it's in the morning, just whenever I can. And it's a challenge because I do have a 24/7 job.
You like to do anything besides run?
Sports. Both my kids play sports. I like coaching.
What do you coach?
Baseball.
Okay.
My youngest plays baseball, and we had a really good season. Helped coach the All-Star team. I love coaching. I have coached other sports, soccer and basketball, but I like coaching baseball.
Jacob, you've coached baseball too, haven't you? Do you do it?
Yes.
Pretty good teams, huh?
We
Didn't somebody win recently? Did y'all win big?
I mean, we've won a few things.
State?
No.
Champ,
State's such a – we can get into that later on. Baseball has turned into such a just huge money grab.
It has, but I think if you think about it, baseball – people say baseball is a crazy game, and it is. Baseball is really the perfect metaphor for life.
I agree with that, and I've used that with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's just baseball is one of those that you will fail more than you succeed and still be considered a winner.
Yes,
and that what you said, that's a perfect example of life.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You want to coach some football? Always looking for some good experienced coaches.
I think we've got a good coaching staff for our football teams. And
there's a good political answer.
Looking forward to this season.
Looking forward to sitting on the sidelines, watching, taking it easy.
That's right.
Yeah, that's. Sometimes I wonder if that's the position I should have taken.
Are you coaching football?
Yeah, and I'm not any good. I'm terrible. I'm the first one to admit, but
I have to come watch some games.
Nah, that's. I mean, we'll charge you a lot of money to come watch because we're really good. If the election, and I know that it's 4 years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
If it was today, would you run again?
Absolutely.
So you do enjoy it?
Yes.
And everything has its negatives, but every time I see you out in the community, I get the feeling that you genuinely enjoy what you're doing.
I do,
and I appreciate what you're doing. You can tell that you really care and you're using a sensible approach instead of just a blanket approach to everything. And I really do. As a citizen of this wonderful community, I appreciate the fact that we've got individuals as yourself in office. I know that you work well with local law enforcement. Mm-hmm. We've got great city, local government officials to work with, and I love the fact that I see you with all of them. Mm-hmm. Whenever you see them, you'll be the first one to go over, and that's a partnership that I think that you have to have.
It is because we have to work together, and it's important, even if we don't always agree, to be able to pick up the phone and work together. I think it's important to be out in the community. We not just me, but my staff and I, we make it a habit to attend those neighborhood watch meetings, to attend community gatherings, and also just to have a sense of what is on our constituents' mind, and also to know the difference between the communities. The concerns at Holly Pond may be different than the concerns at Jones Chapel, and you have to be there, and you have to show up, and you have to be willing to listen to know what those needs and concerns are.
And that not only all of the legal proceedings that you have to do, but I think that's one of the most important jobs is for you to be the figurehead that is out in the community that gets that honest feedback.
Right.
If you listen to subordinates all day tell you how great you are, that's one thing. When you get out in the community, that's where you get the real sense, the real pulse of the community to say, hey, are we doing what we need to do? Can we do things better? And I appreciate you take that approach.
Yeah, I've never been much of a ivory tower guy sitting on my throne at the courthouse. I'd much rather be out seeing people.
And I meant to ask you that earlier. So your office is in the courthouse.
Yes, second floor.
Okay. That's just in case anyone ever needed to get in touch with you. What's the easiest way to get in touch with your office?
So we have a website, which is cullmanda.org. Our phone number is 736-2800. You can email us. My email is just da@cullmanda.org. And I brought a copy of our annual report, which is on our website. Yeah, you can download this. You can come by the office and get it, and it has all the contact information for our office as well as the local police agencies.
I mean, I've flipped through this, and there's stuff in here that I like how you've got your notable trials in there. Any of those stick out you want to say anything about?
Well, they do. These were some of our notable trials from 2023, and I would just say, the first one here was a reckless murder case that happened in December of 2018, and so when I got this case, it was more than 4 years old. This offender, Brett Amerson, was sentenced to 131 years for the reckless murder of Bradley Patterson. This guy was triple drunk, driving a box truck, and he turned and hit Mr. Patterson, who was on a motorcycle, and then he fled the scene, and he was caught several miles down the road. He had 13 prior DUIs.
13?
13. Not in Cullman County, from other counties.
Was his driver's license valid?
No, he didn't have a driver's license.
That makes sense.
Didn't have a driver's license. Had been revoked for years. And you have individuals like that on the road sometimes, unfortunately. Justice was done there. There was another one on here. The very first case I tried as DA was in February of 2023. I had been on the job for about a month, and I was still unpacking my boxes and figuring out where everything was in the courthouse. But I had a jury trial docket coming up, and so I was looking at what I had to try. And this individual, Mr. Moore, was charged with a SORNA violation. Now, SORNA is the Sex Offender Registry. And they are required to register so the sheriff's office can keep up with where they're living, who they're living with, and so forth. That's the law. Well, this individual had not, he had failed to register. And so I decided to go back and look at what his underlying offense was, because that makes a difference. And I saw where Mr. Moore had been convicted in the early 2000s of raping a 5-year-old. And I said, why is this guy even out? Why is he not in prison for the rest of his life? And he had some other offenses too on his record. So we tried that case. He was found guilty, and he was sentenced to 75 years in prison. And I say good riddance, and I don't apologize to anybody for seeking that, because
thank you for saying. Why'd they let him go?
He had it was his sentence was from another county, and he served it. He got a
is it that easy
sentence.
just to hop counties? And I mean, you would think we're a little more connected.
You can't
right?
serve that sentence, in my opinion. That's not.
Yeah. Well, the sentence he got was I forget how many years it was, but he did serve it. He's been to prison. He got out. Sometimes people get out of prison. Unfortunately, he didn't learn his lesson, and he got sent back, and that's where some people belong. And Jacob, as you said, there is evil. I firmly believe there is evil in this world. We had several other successes which are mentioned here in the report. My priority is attacking violent crime and putting career criminals out of business. And a lot of these cases are old. 2 weeks ago, I tried a murder case from 2017, and it's just important for us to move those cases. We have resolved some of these old cases through other means. You can't try every case, but I think through being ready for trial and to address these cases, that definitely helps with the backlog.
I commend you for going back and looking at those, because even though that was 7 years ago, it doesn't forgive what was done.
No, it doesn't. And I rarely use the term closure when I'm talking with victims' families. You don't have closure if you've got a permanent empty chair at the dinner table. But I do hope we can bring some peace to these situations.
And that's, yes, I agree. The closure, that's just, you'll never fill that void in some of these certain situations. But the guy you're talking about, just with the people that can't fight for themselves, that are abused in any way, I'm sorry. I have no sympathy for the perpetrators in that. So that's
absolutely,
please go after those, both barrels.
Yes.
So you can get me all fired up over here, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Is there anything we haven't talked about you want to talk about?
I would say that one of the best crime fighting tools we have is Aniah's Law. Aniah's Law was passed by the voters. It's a constitutional amendment that was passed in November of 2022. It took effect shortly thereafter, and Aniah's Law is named after Aniah Blanchard. Aniah Blanchard was a teenager who was raped and murdered by a career criminal who was out on bond for a violent offense. And Aniah's Law says if you are charged with certain felonies, you can be held without bond until your trial. It used to be that capital murder was the only offense that was not bailable. Under Aniah's Law, there are certain other offenses: straight murder, rape, robbery, kidnapping. Those are Aniah's Law offenses, which they don't require that a person be held without bail, but it gives us the opportunity to go in front of a judge, and it gives the judge that tool to say you can be held without bond until your trial. I think we've done about 20 of these since I took office, and that allows those people, those certain violent offenders, to be held without bail until their trial, and our community is much safer for it.
Yes. Is there anything that, if it involves a malicious act with a minor, is there anything that you can do to hold those, scumbags for longer and not let them go walking free until their trial?
Yes, there are some child abuse statutes that fall under Aniah's Law.
Okay, that's, and again, I'm sorry to just hone in on that, but that's just an area I have absolutely no use for, and just
well, if we don't,
all of them,
we have to protect kids. We have to help those who are defenseless, and the people who would perpetrate crimes against children are the worst of the worst.
Yes, that's again going back to the true evil. That's there's no other explanation for it than that. Nope. You got anything?
Yeah, where are you on the moon landing, Champ? Is that
good Lord?
I think it happened.
That's where you come from with your conspiracy theorist mind. What else? Go down some of these other rabbit holes.
You wouldn't believe, we have a lot of people that come in. So the question I ask now, because I'm so surprised by how many different answers we get.
Mm-hmm.
What answers
Jacob?
do you get?
All over the place. Hey.
Good.
Any other off the wall questions? I'll take them.
I mean, I like these questions. What other weird questions? That's what I rely on you for.
All right, date night, Champ. It's date night.
Oh,
you and the wife, kids are taken care of. What do y'all do?
Sometimes just stay at home.
Yeah, sure. I can imagine.
Amen.
Yeah, Jacob. What about y'all? Is that you? Sometimes stay at home.
That's my ideal night.
Yeah,
when we don't have to go to some kind of ball practice or other function.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I'll tell you what, we go to Bridge Street a lot.
Yeah.
We go to Huntsville. Get out.
Yeah, but you're a man about town.
No, a lot of people do that. That's not special.
Do you dress up?
Me? No. This is I'm dressed up now.
Oh, man. So
got my-
your face was the best part. Me?
We might dress up a little bit, you know, get a little fancy.
Might iron the khakis. Or,
Might iron them, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we've went down a weird conversation.
Date night.
I mean, it's
People go on dates, right? You still take the wife
people
out.
go on
Champ?
dates anymore?
Do you?
Yeah.
That's a good question. That's a
Yeah.
good question. You got to take the wife out on a date every now and then.
Yeah.
what's your favorite food?
Steak.
Really?
Attaboy.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite steak place? Like you're guaranteed, you know, you're going to get an awesome steak.
Freddie Day.
Freddie Day. Yeah, he cooks
Freddie
a
can
mean
cook a
steak.
steak.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's something that we'd be surprised about you?
Oh, I'm kind of an open book. We've talked about talked about running, talked about coaching.
What, did you do any video games? Or as a kid?
Well, I used to do video games when I was a kid,
Like a Mario kind of thing?
Well,
or-
no, more sports games, and I
Yeah.
hear there's this new college
That's out.
football game that's out, and,
Yeah.
and my kids want it.
Yeah.
and I could see myself getting pulled
It's
into that
fun.
with college football season starting.
I don't like it. I'm
Yeah.
not good at it.
You don't
it's
play it?
No, I get beat.
you would
when
be
my,
good.
When my 9-year-old can beat me, I don't play it.
So you let them
Yeah.
win sometimes.
Yeah.
Champ, yeah, have you tried? You need to try it. The kids will love it.
Video games are so different than they used to be.
Yeah.
I remember having an Atari.
Yeah.
And playing like Combat and Space Invaders and all
Frogger
that,
and-
Frogger
yeah.
and all that.
Yeah.
And the kids don't know how lucky they are now. Mine have got these little Switch devices
Yeah.
and games and stuff. They can save their progress and everything. When I was a kid, you're playing a video game, it's plugged into the wall. And, if my sister came in and stepped on the cord or the power went off
That
or whatever,
was it, huh?
it's all gone.
Yeah.
Oh, that thing used to
Yeah.
freeze up.
Oh,
make
yeah.
me
Oh,
so
it
mad.
freeze. Yeah.
Oh, I used to have a Super Nintendo, and you'd
Yeah.
have to blow out the bottom of
Yeah.
it to get the dust out where it worked right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've come a long way.
Well, we sound like a bunch of old
Look,
fogies in here.
here's
Let me
the
tell you
thing.
something about my generation.
I'll tell you though, the one thing that I found with everybody coming into the station over the past little bit is some way or another people are connected to games, video games, board
Yeah.
games, something.
Oh, well,
That's
okay.
something that people, at every walk of life at this age, kids especially, they're inundated with, whether it's mobile. Jacob, to your kids, I'm sure mobile,
Oh,
Fortnite,
Yeah.
Fortnite, y'all. I mean, it's
I guess I don't.
Well, and you look at what the way the kids are doing it now. They've got their headsets and their buddies get on, and they all play. And when we were kids, it wasn't like that. Now you might go to somebody's house to play video games, but you didn't have what you have now. My oldest is 15. He's got his learner's permit, and I've noticed that kids coming up now, approaching that driving age, they're not in as much of a hurry to drive.
I've seen that.
as
Thank
I
you.
was.
what is
Thank
can
you.
y'all? What is that?
Our
It's-
15-year-old is the same way.
Why?
It's the cell phone. It's technology.
They're just not.
That is the lifeline to the outside
Wow.
world. 30 years ago, when I was a teenager, you had to show up, and that being able to drive was how you got connected with the rest of the
Yeah,
world.
to be
now
there.
they can go into their rooms and get on their phones and their Oculus and
Think
Nintendos
about
and
the
do it that way.
amount of information, the difference that they are just hitting the face nonstop with information,
Yeah.
whether good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
It's
Right.
just hitting them in the face.
It's a lot.
When we were kids, if you didn't read a newspaper or sit in the living room with your parents trying to watch the 6 o'clock news, you didn't know what was going on and
Right.
frankly didn't care.
Right.
So you wanted to get away from all that. So what was your avenue to get away?
Hop
Your
in the
vehicle.
car.
Right.
Now it's all right there. It's fear, and they don't have to. Talking about video games, they sit there and
Wow.
they play with people in China if they want to.
Right.
And that's just, I mean,
Which
hey,
is it's kind of scary in a way, and there are a lot of apps out there that that parents need to watch out for and inspect their kids' phone. But I remember the ice storm in 1993.
Yeah.
I was in high school, and we were all stuck in the house for it seemed like a week or so because there was a foot of snow and ice out there. And what did we do? We taught, we read books, played board games. Mm-hmm. If that happened today, everybody would be sitting around on their phones. But we didn't have that then. It's just changed so much.
If something happened to where our phones went down for a week, it would be the most awkward situation because you don't know how to talk to each other anymore.
Right.
And it's not just kids, right?
It's
I
not
know
just
people
kids.
complain about
No,
kids
it's
on their
not
phone
just
driving,
kids.
but most of the people I see, middle age and up on their phone driving and trying to, they got the big text.
Well, kids may not be good listeners, but they are excellent imitators.
There you go.
Oh, I'm one of the most guilty of that. I'll go home and get enthralled with something on my phone, and then at the end of the night, I'm like, wait a minute. Why did I just spend all this time with this stupid thing? This
going down the
inanimate
rabbit hole.
object?
Yeah.
And yet my family's over here. Throw that thing down.
Throw it down.
Now, I'm sitting here telling you what I should do. I'm not going to tell you what I do. And that's
Well, we're not perfect, but
do as I say, not as I do. Kind
That's
of
right.
thing.
Yeah, exactly.
as parents, that's what we hope.
Well,
right?
good. We've given everybody some life lessons. I now have a better understanding of the DA and the DA's office, what that is. What else you got?
Been a blast.
Oh,
Guys, thanks for letting me come along.
I could talk to you for another hour.
Champ, I
but
feel like we're just scratching the surface.
It's flown by.
Yeah, absolutely.
let's do this again.
I'd love
if
to.
you will, after if we haven't, his weirdo questions haven't scared you off.
I got a lot more, too.
I thought you'd be tougher on me, Michael.
Hey, next time. We'll save it.
He knows I'm a nice guy. He thinks it's you.
I know.
It's your real dressed up look over there. Champ, thank you very much for coming
you.
in. Michael, as always, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.
And let's do it again soon.
Let's do it.
Thank you, everybody.